The National League East, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets. Seth, you want to finish it off?
I
Got
mean,
two more bottom dwellers.
Nationals and Marlins, and to call the Nationals a bottom dweller is it's crazy. I think this is looking up to be one of the most stacked divisions in baseball this year.
I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to give a little teaser. Boom, fastball. A little Ronaldo Lopez stuff right there.
Juan Soto take. Mets.
Oh, yeah. Juan Soto in the National League East. He hated New York so much, he decided to go to another team in the same city.
Same city. Name another place on the planet where you drive 4 miles and it takes you 8 hours.
I don't know. I don't know if you can. I could only think maybe Shohei's move from the Angels to the Dodgers. But it's definitely not.
Distance-wise, a little bit different than Cincinnati to Cleveland, but the commute time's the same.
That's brutal. National League East. We're going to start from top to bottom, but first, Seth, I have a question for you. You going to a baseball game this year?
Well, being from Central Ohio, I'm gonna have to watch my Yankees play the Reds 3 times at Great American. Those are the only ones I got on the calendar at the moment.
I'm sure they're going to play in Cleveland. You might not go, but you have the option to, right?
Correct. Me and my wife, we went to the playoffs in Cleveland, and she caught an elbow to the face after the blunder error, whatever that was. The Mark Leiter flipped to first base, and she caught an elbow to the face. And I quote, "I will never come back to Cleveland."
Progressive Field lost a fan that day. But the reason I asked is because we're both going to baseball games this year. There's no better way to get your tickets than with SeatGeek. And you use code CarterCast. New users, you got to be a new user, new email. Don't let SeatGeek see this. I don't care if you use one of those apps to make a new email, you make a whole new account, whatever. Use code CarterCast to get $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. So what that means is if you're going to a Reds game, on any other day than Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead day, you got to buy six tickets to hit that $50 cap. If you're going on Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead day, you probably just buy 1 or 2 tickets and you're going to hit that cap of $50 pretty easily. But new users, SeatGeek, $50 or more, use code CarterCast to get $20 off. Let's get into it. Let's start at the very top. The odds-on favorite to win the National League East, Atlanta Braves. Now, the Atlanta Braves made some acquisitions, made some losses this offseason. Jurickson Profar. That's a big one. Nice. Profar's a big one. Buck Farmer, former Red. Let's see. I'm seeing a lot of old guys here, a lot of minor league contracts. Jurickson Profar is the biggest one. Brian De La Cruz, who came over, he ended the season with the Pirates. He's now an Atlanta Brave. Those are a couple of the free agent signings. Any trades? Doesn't look like it. Couple losses here. Ramon Laureano, he kind of fell from grace. He was with the Guardians there for a little bit. Charlie Morton, big loss. Max Fried, over to your Yankees.
What a guy.
8-year contract.
Great pitcher. Always been a great pitcher for Atlanta.
The greatest pitcher. 8-year contract. He's out of Atlanta. We're looking at a starting lineup here. This is what Fangraphs has. We're going by Fangraphs. Batting leadoff, Jurickson Profar, followed by Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Marcelo Zuna, Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy, Jared Kelenic, who is set to platoon with Brian De La Cruz. So Kelenic will bat against right-handed pitching. De La Cruz will go against left. And then Orlando Arcia. The starting rotation, you have Chris Sale, reigning National League Cy Young, ace. Ronaldo Lopez, Spencer Schwellenbach, Grant Holmes making the move from the bullpen, and Ian Anderson. Seth, Braves, what are we thinking this year? Hey, obviously, the big new Ronald Acuna, he's going to be back at some point. I saw Spencer Strider aiming for May, maybe.
I think one of the biggest reasons that when you asked if any of their additions came to mind, go ahead and kick it off. I think their biggest one was Profar, and their offseason was kind of lackluster. I mean, they didn't make any big splashes like, the teams we see in the playoffs every year. The Braves are counting on the injured players from 2024 to have bounce backs in 2025. They're counting on Ronald Acuna to maybe not have the 2023 season where he had 70 stolen bases, but something to the effect of when he comes back in the middle of summer, maybe they're looking at 35 stolen bases and still 20 home runs. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Spencer Strider, a big addition to their rotation, but outside of Profar and maybe De La Cruz, they're really not looking to add that much. So they're still counting on the fact that they were a playoff team last year, barely scraped by in the playoffs, came down to the last season, the last series. It just kind of, they're counting on the talent that they have instead of making additions like other teams that are just really pushing the limit and building super teams essentially.
So right off the bat, I look at this lineup and I think where the holes might be. First off, I think you're exactly right. They're banking on Acuna coming back and being at least most of what he was pre-injury, and the same with Spencer Strider. They didn't make many moves other than the Profar acquisition. But here's my issue with the Profar acquisition. I think it's fine. You take a risk on a free agent, it's fine. Like you know, it might pan out, it might not, whatever. But Profar, when Colorado took a chance on him back in 23, it did not go very well in a very hitter-friendly park. And even after that, when he was doing so well with the Padres, he made comments that made it seem like his time in Colorado was not great. Whether that means like there was an attitude issue there, didn't like something with management, I don't know. That worries me a little bit. Profar going to a new team, it's like, sometimes it is the management. You know, the Rockies aren't a good team. There could be something wrong there. Sometimes it's the player. Does that come to your mind at all when you think about this pickup?
I don't. I think the Braves have a track record with Profar. He's played with them before, right?
Yep.
So I think, I hate to show my bias here when we're talking about the NL East, but I mean, if you look like a player like Jazz Chisholm was kind of one of those guys that was just a highlight reel for the Marlins, would get guys in the seats. And then he came to the Yankees and he's like, wow, it feels different being a part of a winning culture. And I think the same thing turned out last year with Jurickson and Profar. When you're playing with a bottom 2-3 team in the league like the Rockies, it's kind of hard to go out there every day. I mean, just look at Anthony Rendon. He doesn't even play baseball anymore.
We don't need to get into it on this one. That is one of the biggest steals of all time. That I have seen so many stats since he got injured saying how much money he's made and how little baseball he's played. And I remember last year he made some comment, Seth, about like baseball isn't the most important thing in my life or something of that nature. And I was like, I get it, right? I get it. Your job should not be the most important. Your family, religion, all those things. But you can't make those comments after you sit 3-4, or don't sit, but you're injured for however long, and then you get injured again. Absolutely crazy stuff. But I get what you're saying. Culture matters, and it's tough to get up for a team every day when you know they're not going to win. Shocked to see his offensive numbers as bad as they were in Colorado. But I kind of agree with you. I don't think we're going to see this similar slump from him. My issue with the Braves, banking on injured players to come back and return to some semblance of the form they've showed before, it seems like it almost seems like wishful thinking. Oftentimes we see pitchers don't, especially with fastball velocity, they don't really return back to what their top was until 2 full years after that surgery. Spencer Strider is going to be pushing 1 year in April or May, and even then there's no guarantee he's going to be back to what he was. Now, you could argue Spencer Strider doesn't need to be back to what he was pre-surgery for this Atlanta Braves team to succeed. He has to fill the spot of Ian Anderson. That's what Strider has to do, and I think that's possible. My gripe with this team is the starting rotation, and I understand Chris Sale, reigning National League Cy Young, more than fine, right? He's your ace. Seth, 36 years old. Injury history, shoulder injury history. This is like, I almost feel like the National League Cy Young year you get from him is the peak. And now that's the guy that you're building this rotation around. Renato Lopez, great. Had a breakout year. Schwellenbach, sneaky. I really like this guy. I think he might work his way up that rotation by the end of the year too. But to have a guy like Sale, and then you have Grant Holmes, who was in the bullpen last year, making a move to the starting rotation, I can't get behind it. That's why I'm a little bit lower on the Braves. I was kind of surprised when I first looked at the odds to see them as the favorite to win the National League East, because there were 2 other teams, dare I say 3 other teams, that I think could give them a run for this division. Seth, do you have any last comments on the Braves before we go over/under on the win total?
I think it's going to be tight. I think the Braves have some work to do, especially in that rotation. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they have some work to do. But I mean, if we look at other teams, like Garrett Crochet was in the bullpen 2 seasons ago, and you see what happened. So I mean, it just depends how the cards play out. So I think the Braves are a very good team. They were a playoff team last year, and I think they have the potential to be a playoff team again. And it's just a bit of a gamble banking on young players coming back from injury, but they're confident, and I hope they are. I hope it works out for them.
Prove me wrong, Braves. I don't care. I don't not like you guys. Prove me wrong. We have over/under. I see 2 different numbers here at 2 different sports books. We'll go 92. Over/under 92 wins. Where are you going?
Ooh, you know what? They set lines for a reason. That's a really good line.
That's a really good line. They do this for a living.
Yep. I'm going to say 93 win Braves. 93 win Braves.
Wow. So over by 1.
Taking the over.
Over by 1.
Yep.
All right. There we have it. I'm going under. I'm going under for the Braves.
That's a decent bet.
Yeah. You're really banking on a lot going right if to go. And that's a pretty high number given some of the others that I've seen. All right. Working our way down, we are going to go to the Philadelphia Phillies. Seth, this team's old. This lineup is old. I was looking at some of the ages of these guys, and it was shocking. Key pickups in the offseason. What we got? Joe Ross here on a 1-year contract. Max Kepler on a 1-year contract. Jordan Romano, not a bad bullpen arm. 1-year contract. All elected via free agency. Losses. Austin Hayes. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm a Reds fan. Not too thrilled about his pickup, but might be worth something there. And did we lose any via trades? Tyler Gilbert? Nah, not really. Not looking too bad. Projected. Go ahead.
You're missing a couple losses that I think that are that were influential for them last season. Spencer Turnbull had an amazing first half as a starter, moved his way to the bullpen, but I mean he was one of the best starters for the first couple months of the season. I had him on my fantasy team, and it was like, well, I'm banking on a quality start and win today.
There you go.
And then Carlos Estevez, their pickup from the Angels mid trade deadline. He's one of the best closers in baseball, and at least in the top 10. So, I mean, they're missing out on a pretty decent reliever in Spencer Turnbull, which I think is an underdog and was for them last season. So 2 pretty decent losses with those 2 guys.
For sure. I forgot Turnbull got off to such a hot start last season. You said that name, and it kind of brought it back. Good call on the losses. We're looking at a starting lineup. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, Alec Baum. This is via Fangraphs. Nick Castellanos, Max Kepler, JT Realmuto, Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh. Stott and Marsh are slated to platoon Edmundo Sosa and I'm going to say it wrong. I should have pronunciation guide. Johan Rojas. Are
you got that one right.
Let's go. There we go. We're not like talking baseball where we have data guys that give us pronunciation sheets. So we're kind of going off the fly here. But those 2 guys are projected to platoon for Stott and Marsh when left-handed pitching is in. The starting rotation, Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo. That's what we got. Seth, Philadelphia Phillies. Here's what I briefly touched on this. 3 guys in the starting lineup, projected starters that are under 30 years old. That's a problem. That feels like a problem. Is that not a problem?
It would be more of a problem if they didn't have the reputation and the resume to back it up. I mean, Harper's over 30 now. Harper's, you know what you're getting out of Harper. Trey Turner, over 30. Very good.
But with Harper, at some point, it just doesn't keep going up. At some point, it's got to come back down.
You say that, and Paul Goldschmidt won the MVP 2 years ago.
That's fair. You're just saying that because he's a Yankee now, though.
Oh,
but that's fair. I get your point. That's fair. I hear your point there. So for me, obviously the age is a big problem here. I don't like injury-prone players, and I don't like old guys. I might be showing my hand here. Ultimately, what it comes down to, you are right. They've been here before. I have cited their experience in the past. It's contradicting myself. But in terms of making the playoffs, success in the playoffs, you need guys like that on your team that have been there before and that have been successful. And the Phillies have. Lazardo, I think, is a great back of the rotation guy. The rotation you can't complain about. Zach Wheeler, although he's up in his 30s, he's going to 190, 180, 200 quality innings. There's absolutely no doubt he's going to be a guy that you can rely on in that rotation. Ultimately, what it comes down to, the lineup's old. That has me a little bit worried, but we've seen the Phillies do it before, exactly like you said. So I don't know why I would be worried about it.
The Phillies are old, just like you said, but the only thing that comes with age is an injury. And that's my biggest worry for them. We saw last year Trey Turner had a stint out. JT Realmuto over the past 3 or 4 seasons has had a stint out, it feels like. So there are some key pieces in that lineup. I mean, even their pickup of Max Kepler, he's at 32 years old now. So it's very difficult to keep a healthy roster when they're all of that age. They're talented. They're some of them future Hall of Famers, like Bryce Harper. We know he's going to be a future Hall of Famer, but it worries me on the injury stint, and that's really the only thing that I could see that's wrong with this team.
Before we wrap up on the Phillies, I forgot one loss. I'm going to feel silly. Hopefully you didn't say it because I'll feel even sillier. Jeff Hoffman. They lost their closer. So that's what Romano comes in to fill. He fills in that closer spot. I actually like that. I think that I don't know the financials of that move, but that seems pretty lateral to me in terms of skill. I don't hate that. Seth, over under for the Philadelphia Phillies. I got to pull it up real quick. 90.5.
Oh, wow. I'm going to take the under.
That's
under
what
for
I'm
the
doing
Phillies.
too. I'm doing it too. You're not alone. I got to make a note of it. Let's see. Philadelphia, both going under. I think you have to. With the age issue, you're kind of left. You're kind of left without a choice.
And looking at all the other teams in the East, man, it's just like they're going to be. I know it's not the days of old where it's pretty much divisional. You're playing them 30% of your games, but at the same time,
Still tough.
that's a tight race.
A lot of good teams. We'll go to our next one. New York Mets. This was a team played pretty well last year. I would say beat expectations. I can't remember exactly what their over-under for wins was, but made the playoffs, made a little bit of a run. We're looking at pickups for the New York Mets, and holy cow, a lot of minor league contracts. Griffin Canning, awful pickup. That guy shouldn't be pitching in the MLB. Juan Soto, 15-year contract. Hated New York so much, decided to stay. Clay Holmes, another guy that came over from the Yankees. Frankie Montas, who we just realized, I think a week ago, he's going to miss some time with an abdominal strain or something like that. Genesis Cabrera, minor league contract, but that's a name I recognize. And then we go to some of the losses. Let's see. Adam Ottavino, he gave them some pretty quality innings. Jose Quintana, JD Martinez, Jose Iglesias, Luis Severino went to the A's, surprisingly enough. Harrison Bader, love that man. He's no longer a Met. And acquired Jose Siri from the Rays in a trade. So not too bad there. Is there anything I missed, Seth?
Just some guys they're keeping around, not losses or gains. It's just guys that were free agents and they kept around. And I think that's really the story of their offseason outside of Juan Soto.
Alonso, back in the blue and orange. I don't know who thought that was going to happen. I was convinced he was going to be a Blue Jay. I was ready to be back in on the Blue Jays if he would have signed with them. But he stays at the Big Apple. Starting lineup, we have Francisco Lindor, leadoff. I would say no surprise, but maybe kind of a surprise with the signing of Juan Soto, who will be batting second. Pete Alonso, third. Brandon Nimmo, fourth. Mark Vientos, fifth. Jesse Winker, sixth, who is scheduled to platoon with Starling Marte. If we get a left-handed pitcher in there. Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil, Jose Siri bringing up the end of that lineup. Pretty good 9-hole batter to have, I would say. Seth, the Mets, they go get Juan Soto. They bring back it feels like they bring back the band for another go at it. Pete Alonso, as who I'm referencing there. This team could win. They could win the National League East.
They're my number 2 pick in the National League.
I think they're mine too. It might be my number 1. I don't know yet, but keep going.
I don't think you can make them your number 1. That's
the Braves. We talked about the Braves. I don't know. I like a lot of what the Mets are doing, but go ahead.
The Mets and Steve Cohen, man. The new George Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
The guy is made of money and doesn't give two craps about anything except buying players. And he did a good job of it. I think it'll be funny. Like their lineup from front to back, it looks good. I don't know what their depth looks like on the bench. But their lineup from front to back looks good. I wouldn't say there's a massive hole anywhere. It seems like even Alvarez behind the plate, young upcoming future star, saw that on the Topps cards last year. He's pretty good. I mean, even their catcher can hit a little bit. I mean, everyone falls into slumps, and you can expect that with the catcher. But I mean, everywhere around the diamond, it seems like they're pretty good. I mean, even their 4-hole last year, Mark Vientos, to me, he was a no-name until last year, and he turned out to be a really good player for them. So they found guys out of nowhere, and they signed some really big names, and that lineup is deep.
The lineup's deep. So speaking to the bench, this is what Fangraphs has listed: Luis Torrens, I'm going to say it wrong because I'm going to say it very white. Luis Angel, Acuna's little brother.
Never heard of him.
What? He came up last year. I thought there was big talk in the fantasy baseball world about that. Maybe I'm mistaken. But it's Ronald Acuna's little brother. I feel like he played pretty well at the end of the year. I don't have the stats on hand. Starling Marte, who's going to platoon for Winker, and then Tyrone Taylor. Those are the 4 bench bats they have listed. And this rotation, Seth.
That's my only question with the Mets is how's their rotation going to round out? Go ahead and fill me in, Dylan.
This is going to sound silly. Yeah, I'll fill you in. We have Kodai Senga as the number 1 starter. David Peterson is 2. He put up some good numbers last year. 3, Clay Holmes. Yikes. 4, Paul Blackburn. 5, Griffin Canning. Canning's a guy, he should not be on an MLB roster, especially as a starter. My issue here is, go ahead.
Where does Sean Manaea fit into that?
Oh my gosh.
They re-signed Sean Manaea, and that I don't know how old Fangraphs is or if they haven't updated it yet, but since the re-signing of Sean Manaea, man, you want to talk about a season he had last year. I would question that he's probably above Clay Holmes in that 3 slot. That makes sense to me.
You would have to bump Canning. You would just have to. But Manaea, yeah. I think he got some injury in spring training, right oblique strain, likely to miss opening day. Yeah, so he's not going to be. That's why this wasn't showing him, is because he's going to be missing some time. I'm guessing that's why they signed Canning, because they knew that was coming. But and even so, I don't know why you want Canning sniffing valuable innings. I guess maybe you can argue there's not very many valuable innings in March and April. Maybe that's their thought. But the bullpen, not bad. Edwin Diaz as a closer he's had his fair share of issues. AJ Minter comes in. You got Jose Buto, Ryan Stanek, Tyler McGill. Like good bullpen there, but that starting pitching is a huge worry for me personally. The lineup is stacked. I think the little Acuna's brother, he's poised for a big year if he gets the at bats. Marte's kind of old, but he's got some speed left in him. Kodai Senga. My issue with him, he's supposed to be the highlight of this rotation as of right now. And this might be small brain Dylan breaking out, but I think of players as their MLB The Show cards. And Kodai Senga, he's just a walk machine. That walk to 9 number was never any good on that card. And I think in 2023, 11% walk rate. He got that down in 24, although limited innings. I think he got it down to 4 or 5%. If he can keep the walks down, he's not a bad pitcher. The lineup, man. The lineup does. If they could just find themselves in contention around the All-Star break, go get an arm in that starting rotation, they could make a run. Do you have any comments about the Mets before we go win total?
Hit me with the win total.
90.5. It's a lot.
Hammer the
over.
Of
wins.
Hammer
really?
the over. Hammer it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to go over. I'm gonna go over too. I've already done 2 unders, so I'm gonna go over. I don't love it, but I'm gonna go over for the Mets.
90
That's
wins,
a lot of
dude?
wins, Seth. That's a lot of wins. A lot of baseball games.
There are some. Listen, dude. There's like 8 teams that have just collected all the good players. You got to think that's 22 teams that don't have a Juan Soto.
That's true. That's very true. I guess
Juan Soto
right
helped carry the Yankees to however many wins they had last year. Otherwise, it would have just. We'll talk about the AL East later. Okay.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about the AL East later. Washington Nationals. Now, listen, we're not leaning into betting a whole lot. We're talking about the win totals. 125-1 for this team to win the division is insane, given the upside that this team has. Am I crazy to think that?
To win the division,
could be a really good team.
To win the division, probably. I mean, here's the issue, and this has been the issue for the Nats for years, for the past few years. Ever since good old Steven Strasburg stepped out of the rotation with whatever mess he had, the pitching has just been awful.
Seth, I think they fixed it.
Mackenzie Gore's still in the rotation, and he's statistically the worst pitcher in baseball.
No, what stat are you using? That's bad because I drafted him a lot in my best ball draft.
This one right here, this stat right here. It's in the heart. I know it.
I love it. We're looking at additions and subtractions. The only one that matters, they re-signed Derek Law. I don't know if you've seen that man pitch, but that is like your classic drinking beers guy. Go out, throw a couple innings, call it a day. I miss the days he was a Red. We're also looking at Lucas Sims, former Red, agreed to a 1-year contract. Paul DeYoung, 1-year contract. That's a name I can't pronounce, but he's Japanese, so I'm assuming he's pretty good. Shinosuke Shinosuke Ogasawara, a starting/relief pitcher, so I guess they're going to put him wherever he wants to. 2-year contract. Ahmed Rosario, 1-year contract. Josh Bell, 1-year contract. Michael Soroka, 1-year contract. Nathaniel Lowe, they acquired via trade from the Rangers for Robert Garcia. Not a bad first base bat. Losses. Joey Meneses, Patrick Corbin. That's not much of a loss. That's in the gambling world. That's literally a holiday. We talked about Michael King Day last year. Patrick Corbin Day at first 5 over, the opposite team total over. Whatever you want to do. Him leaving is not a problem for the Nationals. Trevor Williams leaves. Jacob Barnes leaves. Did I miss anything, Seth?
Not that I'm seeing. No.
I was going to say it seems like that was pretty much it. We're looking at the starting lineup. C.J. Abrams, great leadoff guy. Dylan Cruz, young guy. James Wood, young guy that got some playing time last year. Nathaniel Lowe, Josh Bell, Luis Garcia Jr. I'll link it. If you've watched my 5 players I like for 2025, Luis Garcia Jr. is one of them. Guy's going to be a stud. Keibert Ruiz, Paul DeYoung, Jacob Young. On the bench, Riley Adams, Jose Tena, Ahmed Rosario, Alex Call. That's a couple guys I've never heard of other than Rosario. Starting rotation. Mackenzie Gore, the ace. Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, Trevor Williams, Mike Soroka. Not great, not awful, middling, I would say. And then we'll talk about the bullpen real quick. Kyle Finnegan will be the closer. I feel like they just recently extended him. Jorge Lopez, Derek Law, my man. Jose Ferre, Lucas Sims, Evan Reifert, and then our guy, Shinosuke Ogasawara. Washington Nationals, fun team. Lots of young. It kind of reminds me of the Reds a little bit a couple years ago when they had all the young talent coming up, and it was like the whole world's in front of you. What do you think of this Nationals team?
A lot of young talent. I think you compared those two teams very well. I think the Reds have a little bit of a leg up because they got good old Tito managing, but I think they're good. I mean, the Nationals have James Wood, Dylan Cruz. Those two guys are immaculate. And there's one thing that the Nationals are known for doing, and that's stealing bases and pressuring teams when they get on base. And I think that is one of their keys to winning. It's just, can their pitching come through? I think with their young talent, they're going to be able to put up runs, put pressures on defense, but are they going to be able to apply the same pressure when they are playing defense? So that's my only worry with them. So the 125-1, I mean, if I wanted to sprinkle $10 on it, I could see $10, but it's not a bet that's super major that I see working out.
I put $1 on it. I'm not scared. I think the upside of this team is great. DJ Hers, I don't know why he's not listed in that starting rotation. Maybe there's an injury I missed or something, but he's a young guy that if he ends up getting starts, I think is going to be very valuable to the team. You're right about the stolen bases. Ranked first. They had the most stolen bases last year. Offensively, didn't do much else. Relief pitcher's pretty good at limiting walks last year, but they did some retooling to that bullpen, so who knows if that stays the same or not. Seth, for the Nationals, we are looking at 72.5 wins. I'm going over. Oh my gosh. This is at least a 500 team.
Yeah, I'd take the over on them. Did we mention Josh Bell in that lineup?
Yes, Josh Bell batting 5th behind Nathaniel Lowe. I think DH maybe?
Yeah, that makes sense. Did we mention Colin Poche in their bullpen?
I did not. No, Colin Poche. He's blurred out for some non-roster invitee. Colin
Really?
Poche. Yep. He's
minor
still in the
league
bullpen.
contract.
Yes,
Minor league contract. I know he didn't have the best season last year with the Rays, but I can see him coming up and having legitimate innings for them.
Yeah, it seems like the world's in front of him. We both are going over 72.5. That's a little disrespectful. These guys get paid too. Last but not least, Miami Marlins. 300-1 to win the division, and things are not looking up for this team. No real significant acquisitions. Cal Quantrill from the Rockies, which I think I have the 5 pitchers I like coming up. Spoiler alert, that video's coming out. He's on it. I think he's going to benefit greatly from not pitching in the Coors Field anymore. But other than that, I mean, a lot of minor league contracts. Eric Wageman, never heard of that guy before. They signed him to a 1-year contract. Trades, a lot of these guys, I don't even know. Losses, Jake Berger. Didn't really lose a lot of talent. Xavier Edwards, I think, is going to be batting leadoff. He's a young guy that is apparently there's some hype around him, but really lost Rodrigo Munoz. I know he had some good innings last year. Starting lineup, it's rough. It's rough for Miami. Xavier Edwards batting first. Connor Norby, he wasn't bad he was with the Orioles, I think, and was involved in that trade towards the end of the season, if I remember correctly. Jesus Sanchez, Jonah Bride. You got Jonah Bride batting cleanup. Watch out. Matt Mervis, Otto Lopez, Kyle Stowers. Maybe that's who I was thinking of. Dane Myers, Nick Fortes, Liam Hicks, Javier Sinoja, Eric Wageman, and Derek Hill on the bench. Projected starting rotation. You have Alcantara, Ryan Weathers, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, Cal Quantrill. Yuri Perez not coming back this year. And the bullpen, I'm not even going to waste my time. There's a bunch of no names. What's the state of the Marlins right now? You got them on your hat, Seth.
We're past rebuild. They stink.
They were the day they traded Luis Arias. It was a random day in April last year. I was like, oh, they are done for the next few years. This is a product of it.
Yep, I think they're really excited for the All-Star break and the trade deadline, because the All-Star break means that all but one of them get a break for a couple days. And the trade deadline, anyone that's decent on this team is moving. I could see, obviously, I think Alcantara's getting moved at some point this season. And, I mean, Luzardo got moved already to the Phillies. And Quantrill had he was with the Rockies last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And he had a decent year as far as Rocky standards go. So, I mean, if somebody's searching for a back end of the rotation guy, I could see Quantrill getting moved. I mean, they stink. They are bad.
You want to play a game?
Whatever it is, I'm taking the under.
I'm with you there. I'm taking that too. Who's the all-star in this team?
It's got to be... Oh, my gosh.
I'm going Edwards. I'm going Xavier Edwards. Young guy.
Edwards or Alcantara.
Need to pick one.
Really?
Need to pick one.
Otto Lopez.
There we go. From left field. I love it. Xavier Edwards for me, Otto Lopez for you. We're both going under the win total of. You got any guesses? Have you looked at these yet?
Let me think. 121 was the White Sox last year. We'll say whatever 110 losses is, so 62 and a half.
That's it. 62 and a half. It's 62
No
and a half
way.
at Caesars. Yeah. 63 and a half at DraftKings. We'll go 62 and a half just because you got it right.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't even look.
That's it. Guess the line, baby. Yeah. Under here. Not even close. Have fun. I just hope a couple of guys in that team have fun. So
they're gonna win 54 games. Like I said, good for 110 losses.
It's going to be bad. Beautiful field. Love the field. All right, that's our National League East preview. It was Seth and Dylan. SeatGeek, code CarterCast, $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. I know it's starting to get warm here in Ohio. I know you want to go watch some baseball. Go get your tickets. $50 or more, $20 off, code CarterCast. Thank you for tuning in. We have divisional previews for every other division. Go check them out. We have 5 players I like, 5 pitchers I like. Go check out the videos. Subscribe. Thank you for watching. Until next time.